Thank you. Welcome to Friday's Look North.
On the programme tonight, is there a problem with racism in Sheffield's universities? Students call for action after a series of alleged incidents.
We understand that you don't condone racism, but what are you doing to help us? What are you doing to address these issues? And, well, right now they're doing absolutely nothing.
We ask what needs to be done. Also tonight, the Sheffield man shot dead at 23 in a drive-by shooting. Today, 4 men are jailed, 3 of them for life. Back in the ring with Doncaster's world champion, Jamie McDonnell, as he prepares to defend his bantamweight title.
Meet Margot, the octogenarian who's been teaching Keep Fit for more than half a century. We get her top tips.
And after today's dismal conditions, we're hoping there's going to be some brightness through the weekend. We might have to wait until Sunday. I'll be back later in the programme with the full details on that, and then a wet and windy start to next week.
Good evening. Students took to the streets of Sheffield today to protest about the lack of action by their university to tackle racism. There have been 4 alleged racial incidents at the city's 2 universities in recent weeks.
Now, investigations are underway, but the graduate at the centre of one incident where a banana was thrown at him during a sports event says the university has told him it's not treating it as race-related. Alistair Gill has this.
Say it loud, say it clear, racism's not welcome here.
For a lot of the people at this protest outside Sheffield University today, racism is something they've had direct experience of. But what happened to Tyrell Pearce at a university ice hockey game shocked students and sparked a wider campaign for Sheffield universities to take the issue more seriously.
I felt something hit the back of my head. Thought it was a bottle at first, so I didn't really look, and then I felt like something kind of dripping down my head. And then looked at the floor and it was like this rotten banana. And then I had like banana all over my head and stuff.
The University of Sheffield says the student who threw the banana has accepted responsibility for the impact of their actions and has apologised. They'll also be completing volunteering work within the community. Tyrell, though, says that doesn't go far enough.
They're not treating it as a racial incident because they feel like there was no racial intent behind it, even though he threw a banana at me. He is very racist, and I kind of expected them to do something like this, to be fair, because I could tell they didn't want their reputation to be damaged, so they wouldn't treat it as a racial incident, would they?
Protesters here today say what's happened to Tyrell highlights a wider issue at universities.
They say things like, oh, we don't condone racism. Yeah, we understand that you don't condone racism, but what are you doing to help us? What are you doing to address these issues? And, well, right now they're doing absolutely nothing.
At nearby Sheffield Hallam, there have been racist incidents too. The words "too many Asians" was added to a suggestion whiteboard in the library. The perpetrator couldn't be found. And 2 more incidents of library staff allegedly using racist terms to students have been reported. Sheffield Hallam says it prides itself on being a diverse and welcoming university, and it takes any allegations of racism or hate crime extremely seriously. It's launched investigations into all 3 of the incidents at the university library.
One thing I would say is to students, if they do feel like they have been a victim of one of these kind of instances, then they should definitely seek out support from us, and we would be more than happy to help them.
But these students want to see action, not words, and a change in attitudes that's long overdue. Alistair Gill, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
I'm joined now by Elias Nagdi, who is the Black Students Officer from the National Union of Students. He joins us from our Salford studio. Thank you for joining me, Elias. Are we seeing a rise in alleged racist incidents, or are we less tolerant of racist behaviour, do you think?
So I think the situation at the moment isn't there's a rise in incidents in particular. It's the fact that students are more willing to come forward in regards to the incidents that are taking place. Over the last few months, we've seen many students take to Twitter and social media when their institutions' responses are not sufficient, like in these cases here at Sheffield. In the last 2 weeks, the NUS Black Students Campaign has launched the My Racist Campus, gathering stories from students across the country. In just over a week, we've had over 100 submissions from over 30 institutions across the UK. This is a nationwide endemic problem that's taking place on our campuses.
We had one student there who says that he had experienced racist behaviour, and he said that he feels that reputational damage is the reason that universities aren't doing more. What do you think?
Absolutely. In many of the situations where I'm talking to students and they've said that they've reported something to an institution, the university is just bouncing them from person to person within the institution instead of actually supporting them. And it's only when they're being forced to take to Twitter and take to social media and call the university out in order to get a response of some form.
So what exactly should they be doing? What are your tips to these universities?
What universities need to be doing is, in the immediacy of these incidents coming to light, they need to be holding open forums with marginalised students on campus, directly talking about the many incidences, the stories that we've heard about, even the 100 that we've gathered as part of this campaign in the last week, are merely the tip of the iceberg. There are so many more stories like this out there, from the day-to-day experiences, the being called names, having things thrown at you. Some students were telling us they're being chased off campus. This is the reality for so many students on the ground, and universities need to be open to taking that criticism and actually listening to these students to figure out what they need to do from that. But instead, what our universities are doing is, as soon as they're being called out, they're closing up. They're going into a bunker-like mentality instead of doing the opposite, which is opening up and holding themselves to account.
Well, let's hope they will be more open to it after today's protest. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Next tonight, 3 men who shot dead a 23-year-old man as he sat in his car with his brother outside his sister's engagement party have been jailed for life.
Matthew Cohen, Dale Gordon and Kyle Bryan were found guilty of murder after a 7-week trial at Sheffield Crown Court. Asil Al-Assay was shot at point-blank range. His mother said she wanted justice, not revenge. Ian White reports.
Murdered on a Sheffield street, 23-year-old Asil Al-Assay was killed with a single shot as he sat in his car in February last year. His killers never wanted to scare or injure him. Their intention, when they were caught on camera following his car, was to execute him. A row over drugs and money, the likely reason. Dale Gordon, a front-seat passenger in a VW Golf car, pulled the trigger of what was described as a Dirty Harry-style long-barrelled revolver. But the driver, Matthew Cohen, and backseat passenger, Kyle Bryan, were also guilty of murder simply by being there.
It's been an extremely complex investigation, really hard work. We downloaded 140 phones, we looked through 130 hours of CCTV and recovered in excess of 2,000 exhibits. There was a wall of silence, sometimes from the community, but predominantly by the defendants themselves. Nobody wanted to speak to us. We had to prove everything, and I mean everything, and it resulted in a unanimous verdict from the jury a couple of weeks ago.
All 3 men were jailed for life and must serve at least a 30-year term. Another man, James Good, who had been spotted on CCTV buying fuel so he could set light to Matthew Cohen's VW Golf, pleaded guilty to a charge of perverting the course of justice and was jailed for 3 years and 3 months. The trial at Sheffield Crown Court lasted 7 weeks amid tight security. Armed police officers were stationed within the court building, and outside the courtroom itself there was airport-style security screening for anyone entering the court. The victim's family were in court to see his killers sentenced. A statement from his mother was read by a family liaison officer.
On February 18, 2017, our lives changed forever. On that day, we were robbed in the worst possible way. Our family was wrecked, Asil was taken from us at such a young age, murdered by selfish cowards in broad daylight, on the very day he was due to attend his younger sister's engagement party.
Sheffield is an absolute safer place for these 3 individuals who've cold-bloodedly murdered somebody on a bright spring afternoon in Sheffield last year. The 3 individuals with a horrendous record that need to be in prison for a long time. I think that's reflected in the judge's sentencing today.
Judge Stephen Males QC said the men lived in a world of violence with easy access to drugs and weapons. They showed no emotion as they were led away to start their sentences. Ian White, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Later on tonight's Look North.
East Coast lobster fishermen warn that dredging for scallops is threatening their livelihood.
Police have appealed for witnesses after a 4-year-old girl was grabbed by a man as she walked home with her mother. The incident happened at the junction of Lodge Lane and Dawson Road in Beeston about 11:30 yesterday morning. The man picked up the girl and carried her away before releasing her when the mother and a passing van driver confronted him. The girl was unharmed. The man appeared to have mental health problems.
I'd like to hear from anybody who either witnessed the incident in Lodge Lane yesterday, who was in the Lodge Lane area and may have seen this male before or after the incident, or anybody who recognises the description of the male and may know him. I'd very much like to hear from those people.
A DJ from Huddersfield who exaggerated the impact of his injuries in a bid to claim more than £800,000 from the NHS has been found guilty of contempt of court. Sandeep Singh Atwal asked for the money from Calderdale and Huddersfield NHS Trust on the basis that negligent treatment in 2008 had left him unable to work. But he was later filmed working as a courier and dancing in a music video. It's thought to be the first time an NHS Trust has brought such proceedings. He'll be sentenced in June.
5 of our MPs are urging Leeds United to reconsider playing games in Myanmar next month in a joint letter to the club's owner. The country, also known as Burma, has been accused of ethnic cleansing after a military crackdown caused a mass exodus of Rohingya Muslims. Rachel Reeves, Hilary Benn, Richard Bergen, Fabian Hamilton and Alex Sobel say the trip would be deeply inappropriate.
A bill to enforce tougher penalties for those who attack emergency workers has moved a step closer today. The Protecting the Protectors campaign, backed by Halifax MP Holly Lynch, wants a new offence to be introduced carrying a possible 1-year jail term. The bill was passed in its final reading in the Commons today and will now go to the House of Lords. Last year, there were more than 2,600 assaults recorded in West Yorkshire, the majority against police officers.
A row has broken out among East Coast fishermen after claims that thousands of lobster pots were damaged by boats fishing for scallops. A rogue fleet of vessels is being blamed for using a controversial dredging method to scrape the sea floor.
Now, some local shell fishermen say they've lost up to £30,000 worth of equipment. Paul Murphy has this story.
Fishermen in Bridlington say they've now lost hundreds of lobster pots to the scallop trawlers. The ones they can recover are badly damaged. They say their industry could be under threat if this continues.
It's just devastating what they're doing. It's not sustainable. We've worked so hard for so long to make it a sustainable fishery, catching crabs and lobsters, and they're just coming in and killing everything in its path.
This is Europe's most successful crab and lobster fishery. It's still recovering from winter storms which washed up millions of shellfish. The practice of scallop dredging is controversial here. It can damage lobster pots as well as a range of marine life and habitats. The scallopers use metal harrows like this one to scrape the sea floor.
They cause a lot of displacement, they penetrate into the seabed, and actually on the scale that we're looking at with these sort of impacts at the minute, it can almost wipe out an ecosystem. It can remove the ecosystem that's being developed there.
The government's marine management organisation has told us that it's aware of the fishermen's concerns. It will take action if fishery regulations are broken, and it will continue to monitor the situation.
The great majority of the scallop fleet communicate well with us. They do their thing and we do ours. Unfortunately, we now have a number of scallop boats, not many, 4 or 5 perhaps, no more than that, who are fishing, deliberately fishing in areas where there are pots on the seabed, and they're causing a huge amount of damage.
The scallop crews are from other parts of the UK and they're unwilling to comment on the allegations being made. Local fishermen say they feel helpless as their industry continues to be seriously damaged. Paul Murphy, BBC Look North, Bridlington.
Having a tough time, aren't they? Next tonight, Yorkshire is dotted with dozens of impressive historic houses, isn't it? But there's one that you might not have heard of. It's the Birdsall House. It looks a little bit like that. Well, there's the grounds of it anyway. It's beautiful, isn't it? The stately home is nestled in the Yorkshire Wolds near Malton and has been home to the Willoughby family since 1550.
Now, the latest generation have moved in with a young family. They're challenged to turn this unknown historic gem into a 21st century money spinner that will pay for its own upkeep for generations to come. Olivia Richwell has this.
When you're 7 and 9 and live in a stately home, this is playing in the garden. The enormous estate contains follies and lakes. Tractor is the only realistic way to mow the lawn. The house is huge too and brilliant for sleepovers and games.
Hide and seek, sardines and tick, football.
Are you allowed to play football inside?
No.
You're not allowed to play football in the ballroom?
No, none of the rooms.
And what do you think about all the pictures of your ancestors?
They look creepy.
Do they?
Yeah, and a bit different.
The Willoughby family inherited Birdsall House late last year, but if it's to be preserved for the future, it must be shared.
My first priority of the house is to keep it as a family home. That is why we're doing all this, to keep it together, to keep it looking good and in good condition. I think we've always known that the only way that we could move into this house was to make a commercial activity of it, so it wasn't really a decision.
Already planned this year are a mountain bike race, a couple of concerts, and a series of tours for American visitors. Weddings and films are another potential revenue stream with 6 newly refurbished bedrooms, but the Willoughby family have no plans to turn it into a daily visitor attraction. When Birdsall House was expanded to its current size in 1873, the then lady of the house had 13 children and 17 permanent members of staff. Times have changed, families have got smaller, and now this house has a staff of just 1.
I've got a lovely housekeeper called Hazel, and it's Hazel and I, and we do everything as far as running the house is concerned. But on every day, I am the cook and the driver and the valet and the everything. So no, it's nothing like Downton Abbey.
The Willoughby family made their money mining coal. Later, farming sustained this estate and house. Now they seek a very different future. Olivia Richwald, BBC Look North, near Melton.
Now, Tanya is here with the sport.
Yes, it is the business end of the football season, so let's start with Huddersfield Town, who could go a long way to staying up with a win against Everton, but it's a very different story for Barnsley. The Reds have just 2 matches left to drag themselves out of the relegation zone. If they draw or lose tomorrow at home to Brentford, then a win for Bolton would condemn Barnsley to the drop.
We always seem to play better at home than we do away. Again, I don't know what it is, whether it's the fans behind us or we just feel more comfortable at home, but you know, it's the Championship. Anything can happen. Anyone can beat anyone on the day. And on Saturday, we've just got to go out and look at that. We can't give Brentford too much respect. You know, obviously, they're a very good team, but we've got to go out there and play like our life depends on it, because at the minute, our life do depend on it.
In basketball, Sheffield's Shark season is going to carry on for just a bit longer. They booked their place in the BBL playoffs with a thumping win over Glasgow last night by 103 points to 61. All 10 players made the score sheet, including the man they call the Dunk. Dirk Williams finished with 25 points to his name. And if you're wondering about the cricket, well, the news is that there wasn't any. The day one of the County Championship match away to Somerset has been washed out by the rain. Now, after his last fight, Doncaster's Jamie McDonnell said it was time to move up the weights. But in a month's time, he'll get into the ring in Japan to defend his WBA bantamweight title. Now, to put this into context, Jamie is 5'10", and when he gets on the scales the morning before the fight, he'll weigh just 8 stone 6. So he's 2 inches taller than me, but will weigh around a stone less. To put it another way, he weighs even less than Amy.
Maybe I should be doing it.
Now, when your 90th birthday...
My day used to just be a chicken, not even a full chicken breast, and a bowl of veg, but it's got no flavour.
You get the impression Jamie McDonnell could talk about food for hours. He's just not allowed to eat much of it right now.
I know if I'm craving something, like I like making a tea on a night, you know, just to make it. I'd love to have it myself, but I can't.
This time around, he's been working with Dr. Maya Ranchodis, a performance nutritionist from Sheffield Hallam University.
On here each week, I'm measuring his body fat in millimetres. So on here, this is 7 millimetres, which is actually quite low. So that to me shows me that he's stuck to my diet plan.
Twice a week they do this, also measuring the amount of calories burned in each training session, as well as when he's resting, and adjust his diet accordingly. So what do you allow him to eat?
Not a lot. It's quite controlled. He has a very specific plan that he sticks to, which is typically very high in protein, and we manipulate the carbohydrates depending on
what his training looks like.
He's made a massive difference in how he's making the weight and his performance levels, because if a fighter's struggling to make the weight and they're doing it not as good as what they could be doing, then the performance levels drop. Jamie's performance levels are going up. Numbers don't lie.
He uses food as his motivation.
I watch my wife and people around me eating nice food, because I know I'll be eating that in 4 weeks. But, you know, when 4 week comes and you're not bothered about it, you want what you can't have. I've chose to fight at bantamweight, so I choose to put myself through that.
This fight is tough. His opponent, Naoya Inoue, is a 2-weight world champion, nicknamed the Monster.
This fight's all about, you know, getting the recognition and the credit what I think I deserve. This is a big fight, it got put to us. Obviously we've got to travel to Japan. I'll have had the best camp I can possibly have, and, you know, getting ready to go in there and prove, you know, I'm the best bantamweight on the planet.
Brutal, absolutely brutal.
I think he'll enjoy a few pies after that fight, won't he?
Absolutely.
Now, when your 90th birthday is looming on the horizon, you'd be forgiven for wanting to put your feet up and have a bit of a rest, but that would be unthinkable for one indomitable Yorkshire woman from Connolly near Keighley.
Margot Fletcher is a fitness fanatic, and her enthusiasm for exercise, well, it's catching. Kathy Killick has been to meet her.
Retired midwife, mother of 4 and pint-sized dynamo, Margot Fletcher's on a mission at Cononley Village Institute. She's been teaching Keep Fit for 54 years, and at the age of 89, sees no reason to stop.
You have to keep going, or else you just disintegrate, don't you?
There's no chance of that here.
So nice and tall, feet slightly apart, so you get a good balance. Are you listening to me?
Margot came to England from Germany in 1949, having lost all her family in the war. If anyone knows about keeping going, it's her.
Back and around.
In fact, she took up Keep Fit after a doctor told her to rest a dodgy hip.
I had 2 babies. I couldn't rest, could I? I had to carry on, so there you are.
The classes did her so much good, she trained as an instructor, even donning her lycra to perform at the Albert Hall.
Circle slowly in front, getting your breath back.
Now her expertise and incredible fitness inspires her loyal followers, all themselves over the age of 75. What an advert they are for exercise.
She just shows us what you can do at her age. I mean, if you think, gosh, how old am I? I shouldn't be doing this. And then you look at Margot and you think, come on, you've got another 10, 20 years to go until you catch up with her.
She's inspirational. I mean, we look at her and we can't hardly, you don't confess you can't do things because you know very well that she's the age she is.
It's just her personality, I think. She's so nice with us all. You know what I mean? She treats us all the same and she's very affectionate and it makes you want to come again.
Heel at the back, goes down onto the floor. How do I feel? I feel excellent. I feel good, yes, because the music helps and seeing the ladies smiling and working hard is lovely. It really is very, very nice, yeah. To the side.
Proof endorphins work, even for a woman who's 90 in June.
A swing in the circle. Oh, yeah, well done there. Super. All right, everybody.
Kathy Killick, BBC Look North, Cononley.
Isn't Margot wonderful?
Fantastic is that. Right, I want to see some cricket this weekend. Any chance at all?
Tomorrow doesn't look good. I know I probably should know the answer to this. If it's overcast, does that have an effect? Does it have
No, it's
the ball?
rain that I'm
It's the rain, fine. I thought it might be
soggy.
something to do with the ball.
Possibly,
You should know that, Harry.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know.
Saturday there'll still be some rain around, but Sunday looks decent. So yeah, an improvement I think through the weekend. Saturday certainly looks quite dreary, and even though the rain won't be as persistent as today, there will still be some of it around, and it'll feel cool underneath all that cloud cover as well. So the rain light and patchy on and off through the day, with the exception of perhaps the Dales. So that weather system will move away through Sunday, drier, brighter conditions, and then our eyes are cast to the south. This area of low pressure, which will push northwards through Monday, will bring strong winds and heavy rain with the risk of coastal gales and perhaps some overtopping at the coast as well. Here's all the cloud associated with our current area of low pressure. The rain has now started to ease for western parts, but it's still affecting eastern parts, and I think overnight we will keep a lot of the cloud and the mist and the dampness too. So here's the overnight sequence. We've got a lot of cloud, we've got misty conditions and quite cool conditions overnight as well, with temperatures rurally dropping back into low single figures. So a real chilly start to the day tomorrow, and it won't improve much through the day either. Here are the high waters in Bridlington at 4:20 tomorrow morning, and then again at 4:30 tomorrow evening. So tomorrow we're looking at cool, cloudy conditions. Yes, the rain won't be as persistent as it has been today, but there'll still be showery, patchy rain on and off through the day, and it really will feel cool out there as well. At this time of year, we should be at around 15 or 16 degrees. Just take a look at those temperatures. 8 or 9 degrees in places really will feel very disappointing for the time of year. Now, I'm hopeful that Sunday brings us a brighter day. It'll certainly bring us a drier day, but there will still be quite a lot of cloud about, quite overcast conditions, but it should brighten up a little bit, particularly for more northern parts. And then a windy day to come on Monday, especially along the coast. There'll be some heavy rain to boot.
I think I need to invest in new brolly. I'm carrying my children's at the moment. It's not a good look.
That's as far as we go. Enjoy your weekend if
Yes,
you can
do.
with that weather forecast, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.